War Eagle War Report family, I'm your host, C Dub, and I would like to wish you guys a Merry Flipmas and a happy early signing period. We're 3 days away from the early signing day period, and we're going to discuss recruiting. Also, what does a successful close look like to you? All that and more in the latest weekend tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Athletic Architect. It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, War Report family, War Eagle. I am joined by Ike Jones. You are watching the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by our show sponsor, Athletic Architects. Please be sure to go to buildthehouse.com to get your LLC off the ground or just to begin planning your financial future. Shouts out to Athletic Architects for being a sponsor of the Weekend Tailgate and a partner with the War Report. Speaking of our partners, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us on this lovely Sunday. You can continue to support us. You can do it for free by sharing this content on social media. That is Facebook and Twitter. Also, while you're here, help us with our engagement by smashing the like button. And if you're new to our channel, welcome. Hit subscribe and help us grow our subscriber base. Also, you can become a paid member of the War Report, which means you get access to some dope content. How dope is it, Ike?
It is dope as something you could get off the corner. You know what I'm saying? Like that fresh. No, I ain't gonna do all that because fans watching and things. But yeah, man, just come on board with the War Report. Listen, man, early signing day is coming up, and we're gonna be doing a members only stream, just straight through, man. I'm gonna just wake up in the morning. I'm gonna wash my face. I might not even change my drawers. I might just come straight in here.
Yuck.
Yeah, just raw and ready in the morning. No, I'm gonna take a shower and I'm gonna come in here. But we're gonna sit and we're gonna discuss all of the commits as they come in during the day. I'm gonna at least go till probably noon, maybe 1 o'clock, because I still got to get ready for the show that afternoon, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, we're gonna be in here. We're gonna do it. But you got to be a member to be a part of that stream. It's gonna be members only. But $5.99 gets you to patron level, and we got film review coming up. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can go ahead and do that. You get 1 month free on somebody else. So somebody can gift a membership, and then they get their first month free on you. If you want to get a free mug, we got them. You got a hashtag, get your weight up in the comments section to be eligible for the mug. And we're going to do the drawing around the 1 hour mark. So go ahead and get your hashtags in and be ready for that when it's coming up. I've already put it in the comments section, but just to point out again, Mike G's not here with us. He is in the hospital right now. We've got a GoFundMe. I'm going to pin that to the top of the chat section. But if you want to donate to that GoFundMe, that link is available. Again, I'm going to pin that here in the top of the chat so everybody can see that. But yeah, make sure that you guys support Mike G in his efforts to get back to health, and we appreciate it.
Also, too, guys, yeah, please be sure to do that. I see someone asked in the comments, how's Mike G doing? Spoke to Mike a few days ago. I don't know if you talked to him recently, Ike, but yeah. Mike's in good spirits. I mean, Mike G is Mike G at the end of the day. He's hoping to be home this week. That's the goal. That's the hope. Yeah. But, you know, he's been kind of vacillating, going back and forth between reaching out and just the support that he's gotten. He's been overwhelmed by how much you guys have been supportive in terms of donating and reaching out. And I told him, my man, you've made a very big impact on the Auburn family, and this is the result of that. So we hope to get him back soon, and he's in good spirits for those of you who are wondering. So continue to lift him up in your prayers and continue to or support the GoFundMe if you definitely want to help. So thank you guys. Ike, it's the most wonderful time of the year is when Auburn's winning and competing for championships. But until that happens, this is the most wonderful time of the year in terms of recruiting momentum. And I mentioned last week during the midweek report that I'm enjoying momentum that I haven't really seen to this extent in a while.
Yeah.
We're going to get it. We're going to start talking about it, but really want to have a family discussion with you as well as our Auburn family. You know, the portal has been a big topic, and obviously with a incoming coach, even a person with the recruiting chops as Hugh Freeze, you know, recruiting is a relationships oriented business, right? And it's going to be very tough to kind of pull some of these kids. We'll talk about the high school kids in a minute, but the reason why the portal has become so big is for coaches just like Hugh Freeze who have to get guys in now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the topic. And I think one of the more impressive gets so far has been guys who left Auburn to go into the portal that he's pulled back out of the portal. Zeke Walker, Landon King, Chet Dawson have all went into the portal at some point this year. They're now back in the Auburn on the Auburn roster. So, question to you is: when you think about needs, you think about just getting bodies on this roster. What's been the most significant return out of the portal from those guys, in your opinion?
I mean, I think the guy who has shown the most so far is Landon King. But I think the most important for me is Walker, just because
Yes.
of how thin we are at his spot. Right. So defensive line is going to take a huge hit in this offseason, and
Yes.
we need bodies in that room. And you want bodies that have already kind of been in your program for a little bit, just from the standpoint of you don't really know how people are going to make the transit. And not that Zeke Walker's had a lot of, significant snaps for Auburn, but he's been through the strength program here. He understands what it's like to compete at this level already. And depth is important, right? You want to cycle guys through who've kind of understood, they understood the college life, right? Trying to balance out college and practice and all that kind of thing and getting ready for games. That stuff is important, even if a guy hasn't seen a lot of playing time. So I think he's probably the most significant one in my mind. But again, Landon King to me is the one, if as far as coming back, that's shown something that Auburn fans are excited about.
Right.
But yeah, I'd go with Zeke Walker.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you. I think Landon King's the most exciting because we've seen him make some amazing plays. I think
Right.
that's been that was the most frustrating portal departure, in my opinion,
Mhm.
because we saw flashes of greatness in Landon King, and even on our lives, people have asked, why isn't he getting the ball? Right. So from the fact that we've seen what he's capable of and what he can do, it's excited that he's coming in. But to your point, I agree wholeheartedly, Ike, that getting a guy back to, I guess, take the pressure off of having to go grab guys out of the portal. You still got to get some guys, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the job is done. We're done just because we got Zeke Walker back. But I think it
Right.
takes some of the pressure off a guy who's familiar with Auburn, familiar with the players there. This was a huge get, in my opinion. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I mentioned to you before we went on offline, Capers has been kind of going back and forth. I
Mhm.
think he was interested he was talking about going into the portal, decided not to, but now he's in the portal.
Mhm.
Do you expect him to be the fourth guy to return, or is he gone? In your
At
opinion?
this point in time, I don't think he's coming back from the portal, unless he goes shopping and nobody grabs him. Right? Like I think it's one of those things where he's going to test the waters, and I do wonder about the timing of it, because you saw some guys that hit the portal, um, and it seemed as if they were kind of notified, and I'm thinking specifically of Zach Calzada, notified, I don't know if that we've got a space for you here, right? Like it seemed
Right.
like that was the conversation with Zach Calzada. And in that same day, that's when Capers was back in the portal again. So I do wonder whether or not Marquise Robinson was another one that went in that short span of time. So I do wonder if those were conversations with the coaching staff. And out of that conversation, Capers said to himself, yeah, nah, this ain't gonna work for me. Let me go ahead and do what I need to do. So we'll see. But right now, I would not expect it, but I don't know anything specifically as to whether or not he's thinking about coming back.
Okay. Let me grab some general comments. A lot of you guys, I'm trying to grab some of your comments. We'll discuss them as they fit into the flow of the show. So we see them, we'll definitely get to them. Unless you want to super chat us and we address it right now, that's also an option as well. You're more than free to do that. Dwayne Phillips says, understand this. The Rec is pissed that Hugh is in Auburn. If you think this is something, wait until you see who he flips next. Dwayne Phillips coming through with a little sneak peek teaser as to who he's either knows or hopes gets flipped next. But Auburn's been flipping some guys left and right. And there have been some impressive flips, in my opinion, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
mean, it's been good so far to see, and we'll talk about some of them that have come through today. But it's been good to see the energy, as you said, back into the recruiting, and it's not really like again. I think it is a little bit of more. It's more so Hugh Freeze's energy than it is Auburn's energy, because we've always had recruiters that were out there. Listen, Zach
yeah.
Etheridge, Cadillac, Trevon. Those guys were all on the staff last year, right? So it's not as if we have new recruiters out here doing work. It's just the energy from the head coach seems to be a little different towards what the recruiting efforts are. And that spurs the engine, or that fuels the engine for what we've got going on. But it's good to see that energy. And I think that energy kind of permeates into the fan base. The unfortunate reality is it's going to probably lead to some expectations that'll go out of whack soon. They'll be like, oh, we back and we're gonna win the SEC. And it's like, man, it takes time for guys to gel. And I'm not saying we can't. I'm saying I need to see the product on the field, because having the talent and not being able to make it work on the field makes you Texas A&M.
Yeah, for sure. I'm working on some little buzzwords, but it just sounds like the freeze effect here is that, again, Zach Etheridge has been here the whole time, and he's been a dog on a recruiting trail. But
right.
I think having a dog as a head coach just it gives it that added push that this coaching staff needed for sure. I guess what I want to ask you, Ike, as it pertains to this, is the excitement that, a lot of people are saying, yeah, but we need to close. Yeah, but we need to close. But there's been a point in time, Ike, just over the past few years, we weren't even in it to even have hope to even land some of these guys.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing now, because of the energy with this coaching staff, there's hope now. There was a time maybe a year or so ago, the two kids out of Montgomery, they don't come back on the final weekend before the early signing period. So we already would have our answer. At the very least, it's a delayed. If they do decide to sign with Alabama, it's delayed. It's not, well, we knew they weren't going, right? So the fact that we're seeing baby steps to even have the hope that we have is good, in my opinion. Now, granted, it'll lead to a little bit of disillusionment, because, again, we're going to be championship and championship or bust in a year or two. But I'm enjoying the ride for sure. Let's talk about some of the portal guy, or actually the high school kids. Auburn hosted a lot of guys this weekend, and it has led to some flips. We've been flipping guys left and right. We'll start with the first kid, Steven Johnson. He's an Arkansas decommit, 3-star defensive lineman out of Whitewater High School as Fayetteville, Georgia. Big guy. Ike, you talked about the need to get some bodies up front.
Yeah, this
is one of them. And he's close to home. 6'4", 315 pounds. He was on a visit. It was an official visit, right? This weekend, or was it unofficial?
I'm actually not sure.
Either way, he was in Auburn this past weekend and decommitted from Arkansas and has committed to the good guys. We already talked about Auburn landing verbal commitments from the offensive line. We have 4 kids out of high school committed to the offensive line. We also know that moving forward, our defensive line has to be worked out. Yeah. Obviously, we talked about Zeke Walker and the immediate help that he provides, but you also got to recruit for the future, especially in this new type of defense. I'm not sure if it's 3-4 or 4-3, but you need a plugger like this kid that we got here in Johnson. Thoughts about this pickup, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. We just talked about, or I just gave my thoughts on Zeke Walker coming back. Having people movers up front it helps you in the type of defense, which I saw somebody ask what was going on with watch the film. Don't worry, guys. I got y'all. Listen, I'm going to be straight up with y'all. It takes time for me to go through film and pick out the stuff that I want to be able to do. It's not like the watch the film sessions where I'm just reviewing a game. Like if y'all want to, we could just go sit down and review an entire game of somebody's stuff. Right. But like I'm trying to get something very specific to show you scheme stuff. So it's going to take me a little bit more time because I got so much other stuff that I'm trying to get done for the channel. But what I do know about the guys up front necessary to make this work is you really need run stuffers, right? You need 3 down linemen in this defense that can go and they can make it difficult for teams to try to run up the middle. And then you need speedy linebackers to be able to make up for stuff around the outside. I mean, every defense wants that, but if you have 3 really good or really 6 guys that you can rotate in the middle there, it's going to be difficult for teams to be able to run the ball on Auburn. And he's a big body. You add the Jason Jones in there. Marcus Harris still supposed to be coming back. Like you've got a formidable Zeke Walker coming back, right? You've got a formidable mix now of big bodies that you can get in there. And Nietzsche Sledge, bro, if y'all haven't seen the Nietzsche Sledge, what he looks like right now. Yeah. Our defensive line could be really good. It could be really good just from a physicality standpoint. We could be really good potentially right now. So looking forward to it. But yeah, to this guy specifically, listen, Arkansas, Barry Odom, those guys are not slouches when it comes to what they want to do up front defensively. So if they were looking at him, then you know he's quality. SEC defenses, they're going to want big bodies. Steven Johnson fits the bill 100%.
I Am Hop says this crew reminds me of Chizik's staff recruiting wise. They are getting after it. Chiz could definitely recruit. He has some dogs on his staff. He has some serious guys on his staff for sure. And Chizik definitely, I mean, he was definitely a guy who could recruit in the living room for sure. So definitely agree with you there. Ike, you talked about numbers in terms of who you think could possibly sign on Wednesday out of high school. We're not going to talk JUCOs just yet, but just talk about the high school kids and some of the numbers there as it pertains to some of the guys. We know that the kid out of Montgomery, the running back, Jeremiah Cobb, he will be signing on National Signing Day.
Yeah.
He will not be an early enrollee. So that is why he will be signing 100% to Auburn as far as we know.
Yep.
That's a long way off though, but he is firm to Auburn, but he will be signing on National Signing Day. But who are some guys that you think you would expect to be in the fold come Wednesday?
Yeah, so right now we listed as having 15 commits and then the 1 transfer. I would anticipate 11 or 12 of these guys going ahead and signing just because some of them are recent flips. I don't see a reason to flip this close to early signing day and not go ahead and sign your letter of intent.
Right.
So we're talking about folks like Connor Liu, right? Clay Whedon, who flipped recently. Brayton Joyner's been out there on the trail for us since he got his commitment.
He's a day one. He's one of our day ones, so I don't see him waiting.
Yeah, and so he reminds me a lot of how what's the kid's name, running back from last year?
Austin. Damari Austin.
Damari Austin. How Damari Austin was when he got hit, when he committed, he was committed to trying to go get other guys to come in as well. So he's very much active out there and trying to do the work. So I'm expecting that. You look at guys like the kid from Lochapoka. I'm trying to find his name. Jacorius Hart, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm expecting him to go ahead and put it to paper. The one I am curious on is whether or not Deron Reed has been doing a lot of War Eagle on his timeline, and but he's the one that people have been kind of iffy about in his commitment. If he goes ahead and sign, I think that's going to be big.
I have a hard time. Well, if he doesn't sign, that would be questionable, right? I know he had tweeted that he was excited about an offer he got from Colorado, and a lot of people started to panic because of the Deion effect.
Right.
I don't know if he's going to visit Colorado yet, or if he has, but I expect all signs point. I think the staff still feels good about him.
Yeah. I mean,
So
his social media activity has looked like he's still a solid commit. But
yeah.
and just because he was excited to get the offer doesn't mean it's like, oh, that's flattering. Thank you. It's almost like, we had to make the relationship analogies. It's like a guy that's not that cute and a girl's like, oh, thank you for the compliment. It's like, thank you, but all right. Like that doesn't mean you have a chance with me, but I appreciate the offer.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So yeah, I do expect, like I said, of the 15, I'd be shocked if at least 10 of them didn't go ahead and put pen to paper on Wednesday. So looking for a very busy Wednesday. The other guy that is interesting out of the group that's been committed for a long time is Terrence Love.
Yeah.
And so there's speculation as to whether or not his commitment is still solid, but he hasn't indicated he's going anywhere. Wilkie Denard, I think, is going to be solid and go ahead and come on. Sorry, I haven't heard anything about him. So I'm not really sure what the deal is there, but he seems like he's pretty solid. And he's been committed for close to a month now. So yeah, I mean, again, probably about 10 of these guys, Keon Jenkins and Jeremiah Cobb. And
Now, the
Terrence
Keon
Love.
Jenkins was a questionable, but he did visit this weekend.
Yeah, I think Keon Jenkins wants to be here, but I think it's a situation where he might be getting offered a preferred walk-on status rather than him getting an actual Scully offer. So, I for that, in that respect, I'm not sure whether or not he signs just from that regard. So it's Terrence Love, Keon Jenkins, and Jeremiah Cobb are the three that I'm doubtful that they sign Wednesday, but and then you could throw, like I said, Reed in there as a fourth but the rest of them I expect to go ahead and make it happen.
Love got shaky up until Harsin got fired. I think that's when things started looking really iffy with him because he was pretty solid at one point. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with those guys for sure. We got a question here from Bay Lyman who asked, Keith from On3 says, we could have a top 15 class. Y'all think we could end up with a top 15? I don't know. I think if Auburn gets in the top 20, that's a huge win, considering what work is left to be done in the transfer portal. But your thoughts on that, Ike?
I think it's possible. I mean, we talked about this when it initially happened, with Coach Hugh Freeze coming on and his recruiting prowess, that it was possible. I think a lot of it depends on what happens with the Langston Hughes and Carver boys situations, right? If 2 or 3 of those guys come on board, yeah, then we'll probably land in the top 15. But there's listen, we have a lot of momentum right now in recruiting, and whether we do or not, I think between what we do in the high school commits and what we do in the transfer portal, we're going to see a significant, I'm going to have to learn a new team because I don't know if I'm going to know.
Man, this team is going to look completely different next year, bro.
Yeah. That's a conversation we have after signing day, maybe next, so I guess next Sunday is Christmas, so we're likely not going to be live next Sunday. So maybe we record a conversation and we talk about post signing day.
We can do that.
We can do something about who do we think is going to who's still going to be a starter on this team from last year?
For sure.
Because there aren't a lot of places where you can say right now, pencil him in as a starter. And so that's a conversation we can definitely have later this week.
Maybe, Jarquez. I think that's probably a safe bet.
That's about as far as I'm willing to go off.
I would go Jarquez and Keontae, you don't think?
He wasn't technically a starter though. He started some games, but and where is he going to be Like I said, man, we can get into that conversation. I think it's an interesting one. So
let's table that discussion. You just intrigued me there. I'm looking forward to that. Another kid who I think Ike would probably expect to be signing on Wednesday is someone who flipped this morning prior to Steven Johnson coming on board. That is Sylvester Smith, a Tennessee decommit, 4-star safety out of Alabama, 6'1", 198 pounds, 101st in the nation, 13th in the state, 5th at his position. Ike, it was actually being reported. I saw it somewhere where This kid actually was interested in Auburn early in the cycle, but I don't think we really gave him any love. But Hugh Freeze staff comes in and applies the pressure, and he's an Auburn Tiger.
Yeah.
Or at least in commitment, verbal commitment, that is. So thoughts about this guy, thoughts about the safety position, and the secondary position. I know we're trying to flip another kid. We're trying to flip another kid who's, I think he hasn't committed to Ohio State, but he's been entertaining Auburn a little bit. But talk about this kid real quick.
Man, if you want to talk about a room, so I'll give props. I watched Sam Pittman presser. He was doing a preview of their bowl game coming up, and they were just asking him a lot of questions about, the turnover with his staff right now and decommits that are happening. This is before Steven Johnson even decommitted officially, and transfers that were going out of the program and all this kind of stuff. And he was just talking about really his frustration with how the whole thing is working. But the anecdote I want to get to is he made a comment about his time when he was at Georgia. And he basically said when he got in there the first day, his directive was improve your room. Right. He was like, they were like, you need a better quality of player in your room. Figure out how to go improve your room. So his directive as far as like going and recruiting was, I need to upgrade my room.
Right.
And if there is a room at Auburn that has 100%, like from the time that he got here, and I'm speaking of Zach Etheridge, has been committed to the back end, we're going to constantly be looking for ways to upgrade that room. It's, man, them DBs and safeties, bro, like we're going to bring a transfer in. They going to bring some kids into that room to compete even if you think you're solid, we're going to go bring in two. Like Marquise Gilbert didn't see the field last year, and he was the highest rated safety coming out of JUCO. And they still went and got Craig McDonald in the transfer portal.
Yeah, for sure.
And we already had guys that had been playing safety that got a lot of the snaps there last year. So they were just like,
you had Gilbert.
Yep. Yeah. But they were not satisfied with saying, all right, well, we got our starters. Let's lock in. No, it's like, all right, well, what happens if that person goes down? And we saw guys go down.
Yeah.
Right. And they needed other guys to come in. We had Caden Bridges on the team already. They was like, nah, we're still going to go bring in Caleb Wooden. Right. We're still going to go in. Pickup. Yeah. We're still going to go get Keontae Scott. We're still, we've got Pritchett on the outside. We're still going to go get JD Rim and what's the kid that flipped from LSU?
Osbury.
We're still going to go get all these guys, and they're going to compete in this room, and somebody's going to get fleshed out of that process, but we're just going to keep adding to this room so that when we get out of spring, we've got enough bodies that we know we can throw somebody in there and they're going to be good. And so, yeah, I like the fact that they've gone after this kid as a Tennessee commit. And they're just saying, we're going to keep upgrading this room. And even if it's not, he's better than people we have in the room. Again, what they're saying is we're going to raise the floor of the room. Our worst guy is going to be amazing. That's the thought process that they're having right now with that DB situation.
Something that came to my mind, Ike, we need to do a show where we talk about schematically what we're doing defensively and then look at the guys who we like for certain positions. I'm curious who the star guy is going to be on this team. I have a nominee, but we'll talk about that at a later time. So
for sure. I think that's going to be interesting.
That's just a little teaser I thought I'd just drop there for you. A lot of people are talking about Quay Russaw and James Smith. I believe James Smith came over the weekend. There was Hugh Freeze went to go visit these kids early in the week. Listen, Ike, let's again, hope, excitement, right? Yeah. Forget what happens. How many times over the past decade has Auburn's head coach gone into the living room of a high priority kid in this state, a highly recruited kid in this state, only for Nick Saban to come a day later and the kid stays and they're not visiting Auburn anymore? Yeah. How many times has that happened?
Yeah, it's happened a lot with him. It's starting to happen with Kirby Smart, man. Like,
yeah,
it's good to not have to be like super anxious towards your recruits because you feel like you've got a solid plan for how you've recruited them and a solid plan for how you've communicated how you're going to be utilizing them. Because that's really the biggest thing is like some of these places we don't have tape that we can throw on and trophies to flaunt in front of kids, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to sell them on a vision, and you got to sell them on a change in the direction of what's going to be happening, not just at your program, because you can have positive momentum at your program. Look at South Carolina, right? South Carolina has had positive momentum the last 2 years, but it hasn't resulted in a bunch of wins.
Right.
They've won some games that people didn't think that they were supposed to, but nobody's thinking South Carolina is in any danger to take over the SEC East.
Fair.
Right.
Fair.
And so positive momentum is one thing, but then at some point in time, you have to sell them that our momentum changes the trajectory of the conference. We're going to start being big dogs in this conference.
What Tennessee was starting to do this year, in a sense.
What Georgia did 3 years ago, right? Georgia, Kirby Smart came in there, and those kids that came into that program said to themselves, we're going to dominate this conference. The kids at LSU thought that they were about to go and do it, right? Like they thought, oh man, LSU is now we own the West. That didn't work out so well, right? And then now they're back in contention with a new coach, but they thought they were doing it with the last guy,
right?
And that's where you have to start getting into a place where those people in every room start to believe this is our conference, and it's going to be our conference for the foreseeable future. And I think that you're starting to see kids who actually believe that, and they think that they can, for the next 2 to 3 years, make a difference in what the trajectory of our program is.
One of the before we get to the break, one of the biggest things I've been hearing, it's almost been kind of starting to become consistent, is, and you hear it a lot with an incoming coach. It's not like, very rarely do an incoming coach come in and kids say, I don't know what the vision is at the school. Mm-hmm. But the kids see that, hey, Auburn appears to be going in a different direction. Mm-hmm. They see a shift with Auburn, and I think that creates an excitement. You have to sustain that with some dubs, some victories, to keep that momentum going. But I like the fact that kids who have not been recruited by and large by this staff. You've had some guys been duct taping this class together, like Zach Etheridge, because their primary guys have been let go. But for Auburn to be kind of behind the 8 ball and for the kids to see the vision and still find it intriguing is definitely a plus. Yeah. So guys, you've been asking about portal guys. That's what me and Ike will tackle next. But you are currently watching the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Athletic Architects. Guys, please be sure to do us a favor. If you're watching live or at any point after this, share this content, guys, on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Smash the like button. Get our engagement up. Help us out. And if you're new to our channel, please subscribe. Help us to grow. Let's take time to pay some bills and acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Always a big thank you to our sponsors, and thank you to those of you who've decided to come on board with the War Report as members of the community. We need as many of you all to do that as possible so we can continue to bring you this great content. You being able to do that helps to make sure the War Report can still be here and doing our thing. Once again, we are going to go live for just a full members only stream on early signing day. So if you guys want to come on board and be in there and just talk about all of the commits that we have as they come in, make sure that you check us out, and you need to be a member to even view it. It's not just going to be a members only chat like it is for the morning drop. This is members only stream completely. So you have to be a member to be a board of that. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership to somebody, you can do that right now from the live chat. Just go ahead and make that little gift box ring-a-ling-a-ling with your dollars. And we appreciate all of you who are doing that. We're going to give away a War Report mug, though, today. Hashtag get your weight up in the live chat to be a part of this giveaway. Sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. You already know, if you got a restaurant and you need some help logistically, hit them up. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. But hashtag get your weight up right now to be a part of this giveaway.
Ike, let's go ahead and shift gears and discuss. Let's actually talk about the portal guys. We actually got big announcement this morning. Top tight end transfer Rivaldo Fairweather out of FIU committed to Auburn. He visited this weekend. Nice frame tight end. I know how many guys are we getting back on tight end? Who do we lose? I know we lost our super senior.
Yeah, Shanker's gone for sure. But I don't know that anybody else is, because I
think everyone else is still coming back, right?
Yeah, Luke Deal. I'm actually not sure what his situation is.
I know Frazier should be back at least, and the kid we got last year.
Yeah. Mike O'Reilly Ducker.
Yeah. So this guy is one of the big pickups here. 2-star tight end.
He's a 2-star out of high school, right?
Out of high school, yeah. Transfer from FIU out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Freeze likes to use his tight ends kind of like as an H-back. Is that correct, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting when we get into talking about the film on Hugh Freeze and then the film on Philip Montgomery. The tight end position is actually a little different in both of those systems. Hugh Freeze does more of an H-back type of thing. You're going to see more of, or you're going to see more often, a split tight end situation. You're not going to see a lot of, this is something. Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of 12 personnel. There's usually going to be one tight end on the field. That's why they like bigger receivers in the system, so that they can be multiple in the ways that they can block for the run. And they don't have to go and bring in another tight end. So it's going to be interesting to see how the tight end room progresses, considering the play time is essentially going to be cut in half for the tight ends, because you're not going to have two of them on the field often. And it's going to be interesting to see how they classify Landon King when it comes to those things. Is he going to be back in the tight end room, or is he going to be a wide receiver and just a big wide receiver? So, yeah, I think those things are going to be interesting. We haven't talked a lot about the strength and conditioning on this staff. The guys coming over from Liberty that's been with Hugh Freeze for a while, but just kind of, it's going to be interesting to see kind of what they decide that they want to do with him, because with the previous staff with Landon King, they were asking him to slim down to get into a receiver type of body and maybe get some more speed. But it'd be interesting to see if they ask him maybe to bulk back up and be more of a tight end type, or what they're going to ask him to do. And he seems ready to get to work regardless of what it is. But yeah, the tight end room is going to be interesting. This kid is a big body tight end, good possession type of guy. Haven't watched a lot of his tape yet. I'm going to probably get into, because you guys know, like, speculation doesn't make me watch tape a lot. Like, I watched a little bit of the McCall kid, who we'll get into a little bit. I watched a little bit of Leary, who we'll get into. But I haven't done any sort of in-depth analysis, but I have watched other people's analysis of those kids. I haven't watched very much of Fairweather, so I don't really have a great beat on him, other than some little highlight stuff. But as you know, I don't like doing evaluations based on highlights. So we'll see what happens with him as far as how they want to utilize him in the system. But again, I've always been a proponent of competition. Bringing in another guy with experience who can come and compete in the room, not a problem for me. I like it.
For sure. He caught 28 passes, 426 yards, and 3 touchdowns last year. A pretty productive season. I think this is one of the reasons why I push back on Hugh Freeze being Malzahn 2.0, just because of the fact that he actually utilizes his tight end. I know when he was offensive coordinator at Auburn, Malzahn did use a tight end in goal line situations, but like Evan Ingram, and that's one of the things that made this guy very interested in Auburn, is because of how they use Evan Ingram at Ole Miss. So he was a big tight end who was very productive in that offense and caught passes for sure. So he's expecting similar production in this offense moving forward. So an amazing pickup. All right, let's talk about QBs. This has been a pretty interesting few days in terms of what's been reported. As you're refreshing your computer, smartphone to get the updates and information, it seems at one point, and I even tweeted about it. It seemed at one point Auburn was going to have the 2 top QB portal guys on campus. When was the last? I mean, the portal has only been around for so long in terms of how we know it to be now. But when was the last time you saw 2 highly sought out quarterbacks visiting Auburn at the same time? Like unheard of.
I say I don't know that I've ever seen it.
Here's the crazy part. Auburn fans are freaking out because one didn't show up.
Yeah.
We never had the opportunity to get our hopes up for at least one to show up.
Right.
Or even want to come. Right. So again, the Freeze effect. It's definitely been taking shape here. One of the guys who did not show, obviously, Ike, you did a live, I believe it was Friday morning.
Yep.
About him.
Yep. Grayson McCall.
Grayson McCall. He did not show up, and obviously it appears to be athletics related. I guess his major, and I think I saw Corey posted in the comments. His major isn't offered at Auburn because. And that's why his credits won't transfer over.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Tyrone's talking about here. McCall can't come due to classes is his question. Appreciate the super chat there. That is what has been reported. I don't know. I mean, I have not heard anything specific from anybody in regard to that. I think there were some people who were reporting, though, that it was an issue with his just transfer credits and he's close to graduation, so he can't afford to take a step backward in that regard. So
right.
I think it's more so on that than it is him not wanting to be here.
Yeah. Or him not wanting to compete, because that was another thing I was hearing people say, because Leary was coming. He didn't want to compete for the job. So he backed out or decided he wasn't coming.
Yeah.
Obviously he was interested in Auburn because he reached out first, and Auburn will be silly to not entertain him because of what we've seen his production. Right. But my question to you, and I think we talked about this, is why is that the case? Like, we've talked about kids not being able to come to Auburn because they're not offering a certain major. So, this is one of those things that I hope we can fix down the road. And I hope they're able to get some type of a resolution for this, because this would be a very great pickup. But instead of him coming, QB Devin Leary, formerly of NC State, came to visit. This guy is more of a pocket passer, correct, Ike?
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously a lot of people were disappointed. I think disappointed accurately describes a lot of people's sentiments about this, because when you think about Grayson McCall and what he's able to do, the offense he played in, and how there are a lot of similarities to the RPO type style offense that Hugh Freeze wants to run, it seems like an amazing fit. So anything other than that, how can Hugh Freeze run his offense? But word on the curb is Leary is actually the number 1 guy on Auburn staffers board. So why would that be if you're trying to run an RPO system with a QB who's less mobile than a Grayson McCall? What are your thoughts on that, Ike?
Yeah, I think it's more so about the fact that what they prioritize is not the athleticism. The athleticism is a bonus for them. They want a guy who understands where he's supposed to go with the ball and can make the throws. That's number 1. If you can run as well, then that's great. And so with Leary, he's got a big arm. And he can make every throw that you want a QB to make. And he's done it against some of the best competition that you can have. Like, he's a guy who's faced Clemson multiple times in his career already, and they have a phenomenal defense, right? Yeah. So he's played against versus a McCall, right? And this seems like I'm not high on McCall, and that's not. I'm just comparing the two quarterbacks about the competition in which they faced. Leary has faced Power 5 nationally ranked defenses. Right. That NC State defense that he practiced against is a great defense.
Yes.
Right. And so you know he's had the opportunity to face those guys on a consistent basis. You don't know that about Grayson McCall, right? And so that's the reason why you would be excited from an Auburn staffer standpoint to say, I know this kid has played against top defenses. He understands how to run this type of system, even though he doesn't run a lot. He knows how to make the quick, decisive throws and reads. And again, he's done it against the caliber of competition that he's going to be seeing more consistently in the SEC. So it makes him a guy that people would want inside the building.
Jacob Chiz, we appreciate. Think you tried to super chat Ike. Oh, there he is. I see it. He says Auburn's gotta get some underwater basket weaving credits to give out. Yeah, I mean, again, we have talked about this in the past, how you don't want this to be the reason you can't get your guy. Now, obviously, in this case, in this situation, Auburn has another quarterback that they're big on. But I also think that that is something that needs to be sorted out in the future.
Yeah, it's been a thing that we've had an issue with other recruits in the past about, and it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like you want the kids with the talent, but do you want to lower the standard of your academics just to get kids in, or do you want to? I mean, we're not Vanderbilt, right? Like we're not gonna, be on a, Ivy League level type of academic situation, but you want kids that can compete academically as well, because ultimately I know it's a sport and these kids have aspirations for going pro, but you ultimately want to be able to prepare these kids to have a degree that's worth something. You want them to be able to do something with their life after school, because whether you're talented enough, you're one injury away from that degree being the thing that you're going to need to equip you to be able to make money for the rest of your life.
And Thomas Jones, I think we addressed your question. You also said Auburn will be running a 3-4 this year. We kind of gave you the word. From what we hear, his visit went well. I don't know if there's a timeline or any expectation in terms of when his decision is going to be.
Yeah.
But definitely we'll keep an eye out for him as well from that. Daniel Owen asked, you guys think we got to take more than one transfer QB this year, or maybe one transfer and one high school kid? What are your thoughts on you mentioned 2 QBs, right? Because we have we're down to 2 scholarship?
Yeah, so technically 3, right? Because TJ Finley has not transferred.
Sure.
But 2 guys that you anticipate being in the room in Robbie Ashford and Holden Garner. You're gonna want 4 to 5 of them though, right? And so you definitely are going to get one QB in the class. And you're going to want one transfer. I wouldn't be mad at having 2 transfers and 1 in the class, because you can then redshirt one of them and you still have 4 active QBs on your roster. So I think that is probably the optimal place to be in.
Do you think Auburn
the women's basketball team is winning 91-37 against Samford right now, bro?
Oof.
Game's almost over with. So
it should be over with.
Well, I'm just saying it's only like 8. Say they're about to dribble out the clock. 91-37. They beat them down. Anyway, sorry.
Yikes. So yeah, I think so. What do you think this means? Let's say you get Leary. Let's just say at the very least you sign Leary. So you have Leary, you have Robbie Ashford, Holden Garner, Keon Jenkins, if it's preferred walk on or what. What does that look like in spring, in your opinion? Because you got 2 different style QBs. So what does that look like? What do you envision that looking like in terms of how they're building the offense, preparing this team? Because you got 2 different guys who do different things really well.
Yeah. So what I think it indicates is that they're going to require Robbie to be better at quarterbacking, right? Like he's not going to get an athleticism pass. They're going to ask him to come in and play the quarterback position from the pocket and be good at that decision-making stuff. And not to say that they don't want him to run. I'm just saying he's not going to be a run first or a one read and get out of there quarterback anymore. It's going to be one read or understand your progression. And if it's not there, run. But again, his ability to run gives him an advantage, because at any given time, I've said this often, he's your eraser. If you have a bad play, it doesn't go right, he doesn't like the look, he can just escape and get out of there. Or they give you the right look defensively that is light in the box, and he knows, okay, based on this route combination, this linebacker is going to, but he has to understand all that stuff, right? If Robbie gets that portion down, he's the automatic starter, because I don't care how good Leary can throw. If Robbie can make the right reads, he's already a better athlete. So if he gets to the place where he's making the right reads and the throws, he's Heisman caliber talent. And that's not to say Leary couldn't win the Heisman throwing for 4,000 yards. I mean, threw for 3,000 last year, right? Like he can throw for a whole bunch of yards. I'm just saying Robbie's just different. He's a different kind of athlete, right? But he's got the most work to do, I think, from the arm skill standpoint. Even when you throw in Holden, I think Holden is probably a better thrower of the football than Robbie Ashford is right now. So he's got the most work when it comes to that portion.
I really just read this one. Lawrence, you sent this out a long time ago. He says, War Eagle from Pakistan. War Eagle, back to you. Be safe, my man.
For sure.
Good to hear from you. We have a challenge, Ike. It's the Jazzy challenge. So let's bring him in appropriately as only we can do.
Yeah. Welcome to another Jazzy challenge.
All right, we down 2 guys, so our chances of getting this right are a little bit lower, but I have faith in us, Ike. I have faith. It's Sunday. My faith is at an all-time high. I went to church this morning. Where is he? Where do you think he is?
Jazzy.
Does he have a situation? I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Did he have a situation? He had a situation with his truck a few weeks.
He's back on the road though.
He's back on the road.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna say Jazzy is trying to be out in Cali with the basketball team, so I'm gonna go for California. Or he could be trying to get up north for the Washington game. I'm gonna stick with California though.
California's not bad. I like Valencia's answer with Arizona. I almost want to stay out west too. Okay, you tackle one side of the country, I'll tackle the other side. I'm going to go with... I'm going Virginia. I'm going with Virginia. Arizona was really... Oh, no. I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna go with Kentucky.
Okay.
Let's go with Kentucky. I'm gonna do that. I like that. I like that guess. All right, Jazzy, let us know how wrong or how right we were. Let's go ahead and grab this one. Lawrence Robinson says, any idea on who the linebacker coach will be? I believe it's the current interim head coach at Liberty, who was the co-defensive coordinator, right?
That is who it is rumored to be, yes. It hasn't been made official, but yeah.
Okay, so when is Liberty's bowl game? Do we know?
Good question. I don't know.
So the assumption is once Liberty is done with their bowl game, he will come over and be the linebackers coach as well. But he was also a Broyles. Was he a finalist or just
he was a Broyles Award finalist recently. So
yeah. So that's the word there. Ben Bloodworth says we need the war report on Mastodon. What do you think about that, Ike?
I don't even know what Mastodon is. I ain't gonna.
Me either. I was kind of hoping you would answer that. So help us out, Ben. What's Mastodon? What are the kids doing on Mastodon these days? Clearly, I'm showing my age and ignorance here. So, okay, let's. Oh, I got us the 50 ball.
Yeah.
Okay, I got us the 50 ball. All right, cool. Be safe out there, Jazzy, for sure. Appreciate you hanging out with us, good sir. We had a question about, and Stephen Kerr says Tuesday is their bowl game, so we'll definitely keep an eye out on that. Something to talk about maybe for the midweek report. James Barnett asked, what happened with the number 2 JUCO OT that decommitted? I believe he's talking about the guy who decommitted from South Carolina, Isaiah. He had a visit to Colorado. Colorado is recruiting him as well. We don't know how that visit went. or what's the timeline with him. But Auburn has definitely been pursuing him as well, and would love to have him in the fold. Amari Kite visited another offensive tackle, visited this past few days, and that went well. We're believed to actually be the favorite for him, Ike. Isavion Miller, who currently committed to Ole Miss, but is not expected to sign with Ole Miss. He visited Mississippi State the weekend prior, visited us this weekend. So it's down, but it's between us and the other Mississippi school, now Mississippi State. Those are 3 offensive tackles out of the portal. And there are more, but these are 3 guys that we know who have actually visited, and we're keeping a watch on them. We already have four linemen committed out of high school. How many tackles? I mean, as many as possible, right? But realistically, like, how many tackles do you think Auburn could potentially land out of the portal this cycle? Things are looking positive because guys know that they can play right away, and that's one of the things they're mentioning in addition to their recruiting visit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably need I've talked about this before. I thought that we needed to probably get 6 transfer guys in. I think 4 of them probably need to be able to play tackle. Like, you need offensive tackle because we've got a bunch of guys that are essentially guards that have been playing tackle. And then the guys who you had starting at tackle aren't going to be here next year. So you need a lot of guys to be ready to compete for the 2 deeps at that position.
For sure. Again, we're going to have to do a special just to talk about how different this offense is going to look. There's going to be a lot of new faces on that side of the ball, especially because there's a lot of holes to fill there for sure. Ben Bloodworth says it's the new Twitter alternative.
I don't know anything about it.
I just got comfortable.
I was about
Twitter.
to say I don't even really like being on Twitter, and you asking me to go get another Twitter type of situation, bro.
I'm just getting comfortable with Twitter myself.
How about this? How about whatever we post to Twitter, you just repost it on Mastodon for us and be like, go check them out on YouTube or something. You can be our proxy. Because I just don't know if I got another social media account in me, bro.
Let's talk about, speaking of Mississippi, let's talk about some of the skill guys. Ra Thomas, who came back this past weekend with Dylan Johnson, the former Mississippi State running back. We talked about how he would be an added benefit to that running back room. Again, a very good running back room already. But we know what he can do out of the backfield catching passes, how much of an added benefit he'll be in this offense. We're hearing that his visit, but Dylan Johnson's visit went really well. Talk about those guys. How critical do you think they would be? And again, Ra Thomas, he's that big body receiver that these guys like, right?
Yeah.
So talk about those guys, your thoughts on them. What do you see happening with these guys?
I think it's going to be interesting. He seems to have had a good time when he made his visits, right? I don't know. I think that the system matches with, it's not air raid, but it is, a wide open RPO style system. Dylan would probably be able to run the ball a little bit more here than he did at Mississippi State.
That could be a pull, right? That could be the draw for him, right? I mean, you want to run the ball at some point,
I mean,
right?
But our running back room is stacked. I think so this is going to sound like I'm not impressed by Ra Thomas. I think he's good. I'm not as big on wide receiver recruits because I feel like we've got a good wide receiver room. So bringing in more wide receivers to compete, always a great thing. If we don't get Ra Thomas, I'm not going to feel like it's the end of the world, though, because I feel good about where we are with the wide receivers we have in our room. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. I think a lot of it is going to be about how good those guys feel about the quarterback position, though, with the wide receivers. They want to know that the trigger man's going to be able to get them the ball. So whether that is Robbie Ashford being able to sell them on, hey, man, my shoulder injury really was a big reason why I looked the way I looked on Saturdays. Put your faith in me and let's get this thing going. or we sign somebody who gives them hope, or they're impressed by Holden, whatever it's going to be. I think the trust in the quarterback coaching puts confidence in wide receivers to say they'll get the quarterback right. I just need to be in position to be able to catch the ball. So I think that both of them could potentially land with Auburn based on all that.
Let me grab some information here. Edge position is very important. Elijah McAllister, 6'6", 260 guy, out of Vandy, visited this past weekend. Some people are keeping him on the eye. We talked about the edge position and the need to get some bodies there. He could contribute immediately. Thoughts on that? We haven't seen. I think we had a guy out of Oklahoma State who visited a few days ago. I'm hoping that we land at least 1 to 2 guys off the edge. I know we got some guys out of high school that we're recruiting, but you're definitely going to need some guys out the portal here. Kevin McAllister obviously fits the bill there.
Yeah. And then listen, he hasn't declared yet. I understand he accepted the invite to the Senior Bowl, but Eku Leota is still on the team right now. If he comes back, hey,
I'm just going to assume. I'm just going to assume he's gone because I don't want to get my hopes up. Eku Leota. There's a place in my heart I have for Eku Leota just because of how he just wrecks stuff. Like he just wrecks things if whatever your offensive plans are, Eku is like, oh, that's your plan. Let me rip that up for you.
For sure.
If he comes back, I think that's the biggest recruiting win going into 2023, in my personal opinion. I don't care who we pull from this point. That would be huge if we were able to get him. So anyway, I also hearing that Falk.
Yeah.
And this is a kid who we lost him to FSU. We thought we could maybe get him back. Now it looks like he's still considering Auburn.
Man, that'd be a big win.
That's got to be a win. That tells me he's not signing early.
Yeah.
And if you're Florida State, you needed him to sign early so that he doesn't have time to have to think and consider any other school here. You have to believe that Hugh Freeze and company are still applying the pressure to him as well, right?
I mean, listen, they'd be foolish not to. A guy who initially was, a guy leaning in your direction, you want to get into this class if you have an opportunity to. And if he's showing any signs that he likes the direction your program is moving, then hey, go holler at him, see what's up.
Yeah,
he's another difference maker on the defensive front. So you want as many of those guys as you can trot out there. I think about the difference that a guy like Perkins made for LSU. Right. He just seemed for a couple of weeks like he was unblockable around the edge and he was disruptive for everybody's game plan. You want those guys that you can just trot out there and put defenses in positions where they want to stay out of 3rd and long because they know this kid is coming. And now we have to account for him. And if you have, those space eaters up in the middle that can just put, offensive lineman in a quarterback's lap, and then you've got a guy around the edge who makes him have to step up in the pocket. That's problematic. Like you just can't. Yeah. What do you do with that? So, and then that also means if you've got the defensive line that can be that bullyish up front, you don't have to blitz as often, or you can be super exotic with your like. It's just, it's so much, man. Like, and you get the right guys.
That's what our defensive coordinator specializes in.
Yeah. He is definitely a guy who likes to play a lot of games up front and bring pressures in unique ways. I heard him talk about a thing what he likes called ghost pressure, which is essentially you're only going to be rushing 3 or 4 people, but because we're doing
it from a different position.
Yeah, it's like we're going to drop the defensive end, but bring the corner or, bring the linebacker or so we're not going to rush more than 4. And if we do bring 5, then there's going to be some kind of real crazy situation that we're using to get that 5th guy added to the mix. So it means that you're going to be playing, you're going to need DBs in that system that understand how to do what they need to do on the back end. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how we adjust to this new defensive system.
In correction, the guy's name is Elijah McAllister. I believe I said Kevin McAllister.
Oh,
Yes,
that's the
I
dude from
have.
Home
I
Alone.
obviously have been watching too many Christmas movies.
Yeah.
My bad. Ike, let's go ahead and get into the drawing. We're giving away the mug, right?
Yes, indeed.
Giving away the mug, brought to you by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Guys, you already know what to do. Hashtag get your weight up to enter to win. We're not going to wait long. Ike is ready to draw. He already has his hand on the trigger. He's probably pulling it right.
I actually ain't even put it up on the screen yet because I was being lazy, but now it is there and I'm hitting the button.
Now.
Who's going to win today? Sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. We have a morgue going to Thomas Jones. Hey,
Thomas, let us know that you're here. Please let us do. We've already responded to you because we know you've been here, but you need to be here now. Let us know. Keep us posted. I think let's go ahead and tackle this one. Jacob Chiz asked, linebacker recruits at all? Haven't heard any at all. Really interested. I haven't really heard a lot of news here, Ike. Thoughts on this?
Yeah. So one thing I will say is, because of the system that we're likely going to be running, you could see somebody like a Terrence Love be a linebacker in this system. He's big enough to be like a kind of a hybrid linebacker type of guy. And I would honestly like to see Puckett go and transfer to be a linebacker, man. Like,
me too. Me too.
So, I mean, you still have Wesley Steiner, who had not been playing great previously, but maybe a change in the system is going to give him a fresh start that he needs. You've got Eugene Asante still in the room. He hasn't left again in the transfer portal. You've got the kid we flipped from Bama last year, whose name is escaping me right now.
Woodyard.
Yeah, Robert Woodyard is still in the room. You still got Cam Riley coming back in that room. So you've got some bodies there that, of course, their play left a little bit to be desired. Robert Woodyard is the one you haven't seen. Eugene Asante is the one that you've seen, but not at Auburn. So he's got, Power 5 experience. And then Cam Riley played well when he was in there. So I don't think that we're in as terrible a spot as it feels like because of how our linebacker play looked last year. But again, maybe the change in system will get them playing a little bit better, and then you can interject some guys who didn't see the field but have a lot of potential in Woodyard and Asante.
I think the thing is, I think what concerns me, just kind of reading up on this defense, you have to really understand your assignments and where,
sure.
like being able to diagnose what the offense is doing. That's very important at that level. So I'm curious.
Oh, and I didn't even talk about Powell, right? The guy who's preferred walk-on last year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then Lester.
I think we signed him. He was a Scully.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that he was preferred walk-on at but then Barton Lester played a little bit. So we've got guys in the linebacker room.
Yeah.
So I think you move Puckett to a linebacker, and you've got a pretty solid room that can, because Puckett, again, if he played DB, he can move, right? So it's not a question of whether or not he's going to be speedy.
Correct.
Cam Riley was good, and he was able to be sideline to sideline. I like the energy Lester had. I like the tape I saw on Gordon Powell, or Powell Gordon, excuse me. I like what we've got in the room, man. And so, but yeah, to the point but the question, I haven't seen a whole bunch of momentum with linebacker recruits. So, but I do think that Terrence Love could be potentially a linebacker at Auburn.
Thomas Jones says he is here. So Thomas, do us a favor, sir. We need you to email us, business@thewar report. We need your physical address, and we will send that mug to you. Congrats, good sir. Grab comment here from Haley. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Any news regarding the wide receivers coach? Have not heard anything on that.
I mean, nothing that's not rumor. Like, I don't have any concrete, hey, this is going to be the guy. But there's a lot of, I've heard Peeler's name get thrown around a lot recently. And I think the most interesting one to me is still the Grant Hurd situation, right? Because there was a point in time where it was widely rumored that Grant Hurd was going to be the guy.
Right.
And I was thinking, I'm going to go back to what I heard from Sam Pittman here in reference to this. But what I was thinking is that they didn't want to make any changes this close to early signing day and pull Grant Hurd off of that staff, because there's a balancing act between, I want to be respectful to the place who's going to allow him to interview and come over here, but I also need to get my program together. So it's interesting to see like a guy like Ra Thomas considering coming over to Auburn without having a position coach that he knows for sure is going to be in his room. Question then arises, have they said, hey, we haven't officially announced him, but this is going to be the guy that's going to be coaching you? He's like, oh, that's interesting. I think
makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, not just him, but the guy from Oregon,
Mhm.
some of the high school kids that they're bringing. Like, we're recruiting a good bit of receivers. Like,
Right.
I know Ra is the biggest name, but we've been bringing in some guys who are receivers. So for them to be interested and still engaged, they have to know something, you would think, right?
Yeah. And so, but the reason why it's interesting to me is because the reports that T. Will is leaving the UCF staff, right? And so
Yeah.
Hurd would be another person leaving the UCF staff, and they didn't have a problem in that regard for Arkansas. And that's why I say I'm going back to the Sam Pittman comments. Arkansas didn't have a problem saying, yeah, we're going to go snatch T. Will right before signing day, but is Hugh Freeze being a little bit more like, yeah, we don't want to upset what you guys got going on, but after signing day, he's coming over here. But Sam Pittman talked about that. He's like, there's a balancing act between when you announce guys about trying to be respectful to, what these other schools have going on right now. They're in bowl prep, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And you needing to do what you have to do to recruit for your rooms as well. So I think it's interesting if Hurd is still the guy. The decisions that have been made in that regard, as far as announcements from Arkansas versus the announcement from Auburn about the status of those coaches coming from the same program.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm seeing people and definitely I'm loving you guys showing a lot of love to Travis Williams. Congrats to Travis Williams. If we haven't said it already, again, that's still has a place in our heart, even though you're going to be having on those gaudy Arkansas colors and whatever it is you wear that has Arkansas on it. We know you're an Auburn man through and through, but we're happy for him that he's getting a chance to be able to do what he does at the SEC level. So shouts out to him. They're saying that Keldrick Falk is on campus today.
That's the rumors that are flying
after
around.
visiting Florida State. If you're Florida State, you can't feel good about that at all, right? Like
yeah,
that. I mean,
no
again,
kid that you've got committed. Listen, the last person that Tennessee just had a kid that was committed, made a trip to Auburn for the weekend, left Auburn and committed to Auburn.
Who? Right.
So it's like you right now, anybody who has a commit that's making a visit to Auburn, they have to feel like, hey, hold on, wait a minute, whoa, slow down, give me a call. What's going on? Your family okay? Like,
yeah,
how your mom and them? Because we just come talk to me real quick.
I'll let you real quick. Let me ask you this question. You and our family here watching with us. I'm curious to see what people say. Who needs to be the recruiting coordinator? To me, I think Zach is runaway, in my opinion. If he stays on, like, who needs to be the recruiting coordinator? Because obviously, that's who's keeping Falk engaged with Auburn. Even the guys out of Montgomery. But who do you think should be recruiting coordinator based on the work they've been putting in?
Yeah, I think so. It's an interesting thing with Zach Etheridge, right? Because I think the obvious answer is Zach Etheridge. And when you think about the staff that exists right now, it's a lot of money to keep Zach Etheridge at what he's being paid right now if you don't have some other titles attached to it, because he was like the associate head coach last year. That's Cadillac this year. So you can't have that title on him. Right. So he's already lost one of the titles. You can't give him the co-DC title. You've already given that to Wesley McGriff. So he's going to have that recruiting title just to justify giving him as much money as you had to pay him last year to not leave and go to Georgia. So it almost has to be Zach if you retain him on the staff, like just from a standpoint of
and you still have to determine that, right? Like he technically has not been announced as being a member of the staff moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's going to have to do that. And then he's going to have to coach some sort of on the field position, right? So he's going to have to coach special teams, or they're going to have to split the back end between safety and DB, or he's going to have to coach a linebacker position, which he's coached linebackers before. So they're going to, maybe, split outside linebackers and inside linebackers type of thing. Like you got to figure out something in order to justify his salary, or he has to take less money. Like you just can't pay that much money to a guy who's only got one function on your staff, because then not because Zach's not worth it, but because it throws out of whack what you pay. Like the pay scale now becomes crazy for everybody else on your staff, right? Like that's just kind of how it works.
And at that position that Zach has.
Yeah. So it's how it works. It's like you can't justify paying him that much money without putting multiple titles on his card, right? So if Zach stays, he has to be the recruiting coordinator for the staff. He just has to.
Special teams?
Yeah, special teams makes a lot of sense. And so if he's going to handle special teams and he's going to do the recruiting coordinator, you can probably keep him at the salary. And if he wants to go and put defensive game plans together and help out with that stuff as well, but you have to give him enough responsibility to justify the salary.
I see people mentioning Trevon Reed, but the same would apply to him. He would need to be an on the field staffer at that point, which, hey, there's a wide receiver opening, right?
Correct.
So maybe that's an opportunity to give him the opportunity to. Has he ever coached? Has he done any type of assistant?
I don't think so. Actually, I don't think he's ever had an on the field coaching position with anybody. If he did, it wasn't in college. It had to be like a high school or maybe some semi-pro league or something. But yeah, I have to look it up, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Good stuff. I haven't seen any more questions come through. If you have, Ike, but any other thoughts on leading up to? I know now I'm getting into tempering my expectations. This has been a fun. I'll be honest. The past week or so, it's been really fun watching recruiting actually be exciting. I'm tempering my expectations. Ike, you're going to be with the fam Wednesday, from 7, 8 to noon, a little after noon.
Yeah.
So Ike will be live this whole time, guys. Kick it with your boy Ike for sure. Is that chat? Is the chat restricted, or is it going to be open?
The whole stream? No, whole stream is restricted. You have to be a member to even view the stream for this one. I'm not going to do like a. There's plenty of other places y'all can go to get. This isn't going to be like your only source for updates, and I'm likely going to be leaning on people from auburnsports.com to give me information about who's signed and all that sort of thing. So shout out to them, one of the partners that we have here at the War Report. But yeah, you have to be a member in order to be a part of this stream. So get your membership on, man. $5.99 get you to the patron level. We'll be dropping some film. I will get you guys some film this week. I've been promising this for like 2 weeks. Because we have our coordinators in and I've had enough time to study this, you will have some sort of film this week, likely 2 film drops this week for our patrons. But you have to at least be a member to be a supporter level to be a part of the Wednesday stream. And if you want to chat tomorrow during the morning drop, membership is required for that as well. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that sort of thing right now from the live chat and gift as many memberships as you'd like to. If you didn't have an opportunity to win today, shout out to Thomas Jones for winning our War Report mug. You can hop over to the merch store. That's at thewarreport.com and shop and buy whatever you want to. And we are doing podcast stuff, basketball game today. So I probably will be live with you guys here in just a little bit for the pregame for that. But we do have the Lobtown pod with me and Auburn Memes. And we've got the Amen Corner pod that I'm doing with stuff from news and notes around the SEC. So y'all check that out. The Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, is where you get all of your podcast content. And we appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. Those podcast numbers are looking good, and you guys keep listening.
Thanks, everyone, for your continuous support of the War Report. Continue to support us by sharing our content on social media, guys. Also, We love it when you're here, but we love it when you're here and hitting the like button. Smash that. Subscribe to our channel if you're new. I mentioned Facebook and Twitter. We're there, as well as Instagram at The War Report. We are TW Report on TikTok. That's it for now, guys. I will be back on in a little bit later. I may be able to jump on with him as we preview Auburn basketball, switching sports here. But until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.